We lost a lot of trees in the fires. As I do this bit of a panorama, you can see that the property is ringed with dead trees. So these are a little bit of concern, both from the point of view of falling and causing damage to the newly sprouted saplings, but also if another bushfire comes through, they'll burn very well. They're very dry, and standing up like this, they'll go up like torches. So gradually I've been taking them down and clearing them out, using some of them for firewood. I got to the point now though that I've used up all the easily accessible trunks and logs, and I'm down to the point where most of the good wood is kind of suspended on this quite steep drop off. So the camera doesn't show it very well, but there's like a 45-degree slope just where that log over there is, and most of the firewood is down and sitting on that slope. So it's really dangerous to work on logs under those conditions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Rex and Rex's winch to skid them out of here and cut them on level ground. The other advantage of that is I'll be able to collect the sawdust as well, and the sawdust comes in very useful. So I'm going to have to shout a bit so that you can hear me over the racket Rex is making at the moment. I've already pulled out some smaller logs, and I don't want to drain his battery any further. So I've got the engine running. He's in park, and the engine will provide some of the power for the winch. So it's 15,000-pound winch. Should be more than enough to bring the log up. As I said, I got down a few smaller logs already. This is a much larger log from much further down the hill. We'll see how it goes. The white thing halfway down is an old bed underlay that I put on in case the hook gives way or the chain gives way. These steel ropes take quite a bit of they get quite a bit of kinetic energy stored, and I don't want to have a cargo hook buried in my forehead. So the white thing is just to slow down the hook if it happens to detach and comes towards me. Okay, so here comes my 107th attempt to win a Darwin Award. Okay, looks like we've hit a bit of a snag. Go down and see what's happening. I've cleared that stump away. Hardwood, quite thick. So hopefully the log will ride over it now instead of wedging between it. We'll see. battery's been drawing so much current, it started to burn the insulation on one of the leads. So I'm gonna stop winching, and I'm just gonna try and use Rex to pull the log back. I think he should be okay to do that. We'll see. Well done, Rex, eh? World's best ATV. All right, so I think the next step is the happy music of the chainsaws. I thought I would show you why I collect the sawdust. So this is my bathroom. If you like, my loo with a view. So it's great when it's sunshiny and warm. It's not quite so good in winter. So it's a composting toilet, and it's actually really good. It's by Clovis Multrum, and there's underneath here is a large tank where waste gets composted, and I've been using it for the last 7 years. So this one was designed for a family of between 5 and 7. I empty it every couple of years, and the product at the end is basically almost indistinguishable from the sort of compost that you would get in a bag. So it's really good system. So when you use it, you don't put water down the toilet. You just use the toilet as you would a normal toilet, and then you put a little dab of organic matter, a little bit of sawdust. So I've tried several different things for this. There we go. Let's put a handful down now. I've tried several different things for this. I've tried chaff, and I've tried dried grass cut up from here, but the sawdust is by far and away the best medium for doing this. It completely eliminates smells of any sort. So I'm sitting here with the lid of the toilet up, and I just can't smell anything at all at the moment. You don't use very much, just a handful every time you use it, and it's a really great system. So a lot of people, when they're off grid, they go septic or septic drainage. Septic drainage isn't really an option here because we've got the valley downhill, and that goes into a catchment. I mean, it is over 1.5 kilometres away, But I wouldn't be keen on septic drainage here for fear of getting stuff into the local creeks. But this works really well. Every couple of years, I get my auger out, I dig a couple of deep holes, and put the material in. Anything around it where I dig the holes grows really well, and so it's a really good system. And so because I've been doing so much wooding just recently, I've got plenty of sawdust, probably enough for the next year or so in here. Safe and sound back at the cabin now. That was a really interesting experience, and as I said, it's my first go skidding whole trunks out of the forest, as opposed to cutting stuff up in situ and carrying out small rounds and dumping in the trailer that way. Reflecting on it, there's a bunch of stuff that I would do differently. Clearly, the use of the winch is not sustainable in the future. Like the burning off of the insulation tells me it's just taking way too much current. I guess in hindsight, the winch is designed for maybe a couple of minutes operation, whereas I was going for, with that long final winch, probably about 5 or 10 minutes, and so it's not surprising that it caused problems. The thinking behind using the winch was that it was a nice, slow, steady and sure pull, as opposed to the much faster pull of using the vehicle and driving that backwards. We'll come back to the problems with doing that later. I guess the other issue that was in the front of my mind was that I was in front of the vehicle a lot of the time. Because the load is static, I wasn't that concerned about it. I had to be there because I needed to have line of sight along the tow line to where I was dragging the log to see what was going on. Because the skidway that I'd cut was quite narrow, I couldn't be off to one side, otherwise I'd lose track of the log and I wouldn't be able to see what was going on, and that would be difficult. I do need to emphasize that, this is a static load. The moment something happens, the chain slips, or else the vehicle edges forward a little bit, it's going to take the strain out of the system, and there won't be any issues. So, the vehicle wouldn't suddenly lose traction and mow me down. That wasn't going to happen because the ATV it's a V8, it weighs 2 tons. The moment the log stops moving, there's no force on the vehicle. And so it might bump forward a foot or two, something like that, but it's not going to go further than that. So I was a little bit sanguine about being right in front of the vehicle. I still don't think it's an ideal situation. And I think if I was going to do that again, I would cut a much broader skidway so I could move to one side and see what was going on. With the towing the trunk out of the forest, I was kind of resistant to doing that. The reason being is that the Rex has got tractor tyres on, and even with the diff lock on, I'd be pretty sure that sooner or later I'd be spinning those wheels. Because the terrain around here is so steep, the moment you have a wheel spin, you dig a rut, and then you get erosion, which is why it was one of the big things behind my choice of the winch. I think probably what I'll do in the future is, instead of using Rex and the winch, I'll be using Terry, the ASV bulldozer that I've got. So this is a tracked bulldozer. The footprint of the tracks is very, very broad. They're broad tracks, and they go over they cover a big area. And so the actual pressure they exert is very low, and they're actually well known for being very kind to terrain. They don't tear it up. And so what I would do is I would chain up the trunk, rope from the trunk to the bulldozer, and use the bulldozer's tracks to pull the trunk out. Being high up, I would have a much better view, and I'm obviously protected by the cage around the bulldozer as well. It's a little bit of a pain because I've got to take the buckets off every time I want to do something like that. But I think it's probably a good option. And this is one of the reasons why I got this particular make of bulldozer, because it's very stable, and it's very capable of doing this sort of duty as well. I got plenty of firewood out of this exercise, so probably by the time I've stacked it, it'll be maybe 100 or so split logs. So I'm happy with that. Plenty of sawdust, which is good for the reasons that I explained just a few minutes ago. Another benefit, the last time I used the winch was towing the trailer up the approach road when it was too muddy to take the Jeep up and tow the trailer up with the Jeep. So I had Rex at the top, unspooled his winch, and then winched up the trailer. And when I did that, although it worked very well, there was a lot of cable which was unspooled off the drum, and I just wound it back without taking a lot of care about putting the cable back on the drum. And this is a problem because when you do that, you end up with very loosely packed cable, and next time you put strain on it, it's possible for the cable loops to kind of dig between each other, and you can end up with jams. It's not an ideal situation. Here, because I was winching with the logs, the cable was under strain all the time. I was able to do a much better job of packing the cable back onto the drum again. So it's much neater. So I'm pretty happy about that. So yeah, you got lots and lots of firewood, lots and lots of sawdust, lots and lots of exercise for me. Not so much for the other member of the dark sky cabin who spent the afternoon on their bed next to the fire. Good on you, Freya.